Today is January 12th, 2024, Friday of the first week in Ordinary Time, and our Gospel today comes to us from Mark 2, 1-12. When Jesus returned to Capernaum after some days, it became known that he was at home. Many gathered together so that there was no longer room for them, not even around the door, and he preached the word to them. They came bringing to him a paralytic carried by 4 men. Unable to get near Jesus because of the crowd, they opened up the roof above him. After they had broken through, they let down the mat on which the paralytic was lying. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to him, "Child, your sins are forgiven." Now some of the scribes were sitting there asking themselves, "Why does this man speak that way? He is blaspheming. Who but God alone can forgive sins?" Jesus immediately knew in his mind what they were thinking to themselves, so he said, "Why are you thinking such things in your hearts? Which is easier, to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise, pick up your mat and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority to forgive sins on earth," he said to the paralytic, "I say to you, rise, pick up your mat, and go home." He rose, picked up his mat at once, and went away in the sight of everyone. They were all astounded, and glorified God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." The Gospel of the Lord. Friends, to draw out a spiritual lesson from today's Gospel, I want us to remember one of the earliest math lessons we ever learned. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2. The Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us 2 things about miracles. First, that they invite us to faith in Jesus Christ as the one whom the Father has sent, but they also are a reward of faith. 2. There are 2 men at the heart of today's Gospel, Jesus and the paralytic. But these 2 men would have never met if it weren't for 4. 4 friends and the 4 virtues that they exercised to get their friend, the paralytic, close to the Lord. These 4 friends are not only men of faith, but they are also men of virtue. They exhibit what St. Thomas Aquinas would call the 4 potential parts of the virtue of fortitude, or in layman's terms, we could call them the 4 cousins of fortitude. Just like your cousins are related to you not directly as brothers and sisters, but in an indirect way, so also potential parts of virtues are related to a primary virtue, not directly, but in a secondary way. The 4 virtues that these 4 friends exhibit today are confidence, magnificence, patience, and perseverance. Confidence is a hope-filled state of mind before carrying out an action. Magnificence is doing some great action, some great thing externally. Patience is not giving in to sorrow in the face of any threatening evil like an obstacle, and perseverance is the firm courage to stay the course of action in spite of the presence of some evil or obstacle. The 4 friends of the paralytic today carry out each one of these 4 virtues. They are confident that there is a way to get their friend to the Lord, and that when they do so, the Lord will provide a healing. They have a hope-filled state of mind before acting. They are also magnificent. They carry out the great act of getting their friend to the Lord by carrying him on a stretcher. They are also patient. They don't give in to sorrow in the face of some threatening obstacle. Imagine that sight of the crowd as they're carrying their friend on the stretcher. The great crowd doesn't deter them. They patiently make their way to the house by making their way through the crowd. And finally, they persevere. They have the firm courage to stay the course of action in spite of any obstacle. They fulfill their objective by sticking to their confident decision to get their friend to the Lord, even if it takes climbing the roof and breaking it open. And then, as Mark tells us, when Jesus saw their faith, he granted their friend a miracle. In a sense, we could also say when Jesus saw their confidence, their magnificence, their patience, and their perseverance rooted in faith, he granted their friend a miracle. And so we can ask ourselves today, Where is the Lord calling me to virtuous action rooted in faith? What is the rooftop He's inviting me to climb in my own life? You can think about a situation where you may be leaning towards a fearful or lazy response. You would rather just avoid the situation altogether. Instead, renewed by the teaching of today's gospel, how can you change that tendency of avoiding it into a response of confidence, magnificence, patience, and perseverance? If we truly want to walk in the Lord's way, meaning walking the Christian way of life and living in Christian virtue, then we need to make good on the opportunities divine providence is giving us to be virtuous. Remember, as Chesterton wrote, the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. May God bless you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing the gospel and homily, I invite you to share it with someone you know who may also find it rewarding, and also to subscribe to the Catholic Voice channel. Please see in the description below if you would like to receive a text message for each daily gospel and homily. Please also keep our missionary priests throughout the world in your prayers. Thank you, and God bless.